This is the Note Closer Show, where you get the latest developments in distressed note investing and learn the secrets of how you can control millions of dollars worth of property for pennies on the dollar. Get educated and entertained by someone who has closed thousands of deals and lives to support you in achieving the same. Now, here's your host, CEO of We Close Notes, Scott Carson.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Note Closer Show. As always, Scott Carson, excited to be here with you today, and really excited for our special guest today, a guy I've gotten to know over the last few months who's doing some amazing stuff. And this guy has a very amazing, not only collection of historical documents, which we could spend all day or all week talking about his love for history and capitalism and the study of human nature out there, but this guy is a very established real estate investor with over 20 years. His specialty has been in the single family residential and mobile home park area. He's got a blue collar mentality, but a Harvard mindset. He is an avid student of history, as we talked about, but he's often known, as we like to say, the prophet of profits, the fortune teller of flips, the mobile home park mogul, the one, the only. Join us live from Arizona today, Mr. Steve Wahl. What's going on this morning, Steve? How you doing, buddy?
All right. Well, I appreciate that. Whoever wrote that introduction needs a raise. So.
I'll tell Steph. She'll up my pay from $1 to $1.05.
Nice.
But one of the things we like talking about, obviously, is the note business and the podcast. But we also, one of the biggest things we like to dive into from time to time is other avenues, especially the need for a lot of people out there for affordable housing in a variety of ways and profitability for investors. And you've been doing mobile home park investing for quite a while now. You want to talk a little about kind of how you got into that in your background?
Well, ever since I was a child, while most people thought about, being an astronaut, a policeman, a professional ball player, I thought, hell, let's be a mobile home park investor. No, that never happened. I don't think anybody who's telling the truth, whether it be me or the Oracle of Omaha, because Berkshire Hathaway loves mobile home parks.
Yes, they do.
Nobody starts out thinking that would be awesome. What happened was, growing up, we moved around a lot, and I'd lived in some mobile homes. My family lived in mobile homes and stuff. I mean, we had some real houses too, but I'm just, so it wasn't completely a foreign concept.
Right.
However, I back in the late 80s, when everything kind of tanked, and the mortgage rates interest rates were 19-20%. I mean, it was cheaper to buy a home on a credit card. My sister and brother-in-law had my parents co-sign on them with the mobile home. And a lot of times, and people need to understand, when it comes to mobile homes, banks don't give loans on mobile homes. They give loans on the land, because a mobile home you can pack up and be gone. And so that's why they always go for these little mobile home land packages if you want to carry a mortgage on it. So anyways, they got in there. They decided to take off and stick my parents with the mobile home. I was living in this little studio apartment at the time. My dad walked me around the mobile home park several times, said, hey, we're in trouble here. You need to take over the mobile home. I was like, okay, sure. So I did. And it was a really trashy park, a lot of crime. And, bottom line is, I'm barely talking to my sister today. And, it took about 10 years for my parents and I to start talking again. We went and we had new managers every week. Almost, it seems like, at least every month, because they kept taking off with the rent. The owners were in California. Finally, a manager came in. He hadn't seen this side of sober since Vietnam, but I loved it because he would knock on all these tweakers' doors and shove a 44 in their mouth and say, it's either you or me. I enjoyed his eviction process. I said, hey, I can back a guy like that. He cleaned up the park real quick.
Right.
The problem was he was no good when it came to dealing with sober, normal people. So he asked if I wanted to take his place. And so I was like, okay. So that's how I got into the mobile home management portion of it. There was another park next door to us that was just as bad as we used to be. I kept sending managers over there. They just got burnt out having to deal with everything. Things were quiet for a bit. I had my own construction company, had been doing construction. Excuse me. Some managers had heard of me. They came over and asked if I would start doing some electrical. I said, sure. I went over there, was working on that, made a video for the owner, made some sort of little comment that my helper would be a good next manager. He gave me a call a few months later and said, I really need some help. I need somebody to evict the managers, actually, and take over that park. And so ended up doing that. And again, started managing that park. Some may say it was genius. Some may say I just ran it into the ground to where the owners were like, hell, just take over everything. It didn't quite happen that way. I was diligent in cleaning it up and things like that. But the owner at the time, because it was on a long-term lease is what it was. And the owner at the time, who's now my business partner and has been for several years, offered it to me for $1.
Wow.
And I'm like, what? I was like, wait a minute. I can make more in 2 weeks than I can in an entire year of what I'm getting paid now. There's something evil going on, or nobody can have that much money, and I was scared, because I just had management mentality. And so I turned him down. It didn't even occur to me, even if you had it for 6 months, and you tank this thing, I mean, you'd have more money than you could being here for 20 years. So,
right.
What's the deal here? So anyways, his part of the lease came to be renewed again, and he decided not to. So the original owners of the land of the park stepped in, and they decided that they didn't really want to manage it, and so they let me have a lot of control over it. Well, one of the owners, well, it was the sole owner at the time. Anyway, she ended up in the hospital, had a heart attack. Her kids came around and said, hey, what would be great if you just went ahead and died so that we could we can have the money, sell the park and have the money. And that didn't sit well with her. I visited her, made sure everything was good. About 6 months after she got out of the hospital, she said, you know what, Steve, I'll tell you what, you've done nothing but be good to me. You've treated me right. And quite frankly, I want to piss off my kids. So I will give you this sweetheart of a deal. It's a 10-year lease, and it was a very minuscule amount. And I said, my God, if you're going to do that, I want to go ahead and I want to pay off all your debts and everything. The plan was the first 5 years to pay off all of her debts and everything else like that. And then the next 5 years was supposed to be nothing but profit making. Paid off her debts in 3 years, and we've been getting 1,000% monthly return on the park ever since. And so and I realized that is that's a unicorn. That's an anomaly. It's not something that can be done on a daily basis. However, there's been other mobile home parks that have come and gone. And so I do know how to make a mobile home park profitable. And a lot of it's not just the general way that people think. And so that's, I guess that's probably one of the reasons why I'm on the show today. So that's a little bit of what I'm doing now. So
I love it. I think one of the things we mentioned beforehand about Buffett being a big fan of mobile home parks and the cash flow aspect of it, but it really is truly a fractured kind of industry with not a lot of big national players or like the building industry or the home industry. And I actually was speaking with the special asset manager at Vanderbilt Mortgage yesterday, which is one of the big financiers of mobile homes, and talking about the structure of that. And it's really an interesting thing. Now, with your mobile home park, is it just the land, or are you buying homes, putting them on there and renting out the homes as well, or a combination of both, just a lot, or
and that's one of the things that because I took a look at because or having managed mobile home parks, having been called in to flip mobile home parks, and now owning a mobile home park, so I've been in all different scenarios, and I got to tell you, if given the option every single time, I rent the dirt. Stay as far away from buying mobile homes as you possibly can. It's a huge headache. I know some people like to be like, well, if you own the home, you get them while they're coming and going, and both ways and stuff. And it's just because repairs are expensive, especially if you don't do them yourself. It's easy, you piss somebody off. It's easy for them to destroy the place. So one of the incentives that we actually had, like when we go to buy mobile home parks, and let's say there's a bunch of abandoned trailers, or let's say that the situation was that they own the park owns the mobile homes. What we do is we clean up the title if anything needs to be done with that, and we actually offer. We'll say, you know what? You take the mobile home as is, you can have it for free. You need to stay a certain amount of time though, and we'll give you the title. So that's how we get out of owning mobile homes and get right back to renting the dirt. At least with the dirt, you're only responsible for what's underneath it. So it's you can be very profitable that way as long as your utilities are in good shape.
Well, I think it's one of the biggest things about profitability. A lot of people think doing more of buying the houses and the rehabs and the management, and sometimes doing less is not only more profitable, it keeps you sane too. I can kind of hear that coming from you, right?
Oh yeah. Well, the thing is that, whenever you, everybody thinks just because you have a mobile home park, you get to be the judge, jury, and executioner. You're the sheriff, you're the park therapist, you're all of this, and it can really drag a manager down real quick and not let him get onto his main responsibilities, which is collect rent and make sure the dirt's good. That's it. And if you stick with that's relatively easy formula, because people who don't want to take responsibility, or better yet, if they want to shift blame onto you, if you own the homes and things like that, then they think that this little community that you're in charge of, that you have to make all the laws, you have to enforce all the laws. And it's like, what is this going to do for you when you get out in the real world? What happens when you move into a neighborhood or something like that? You're going to keep calling the police every 5 seconds. And so it kind of trains everybody to be responsible for your home. It's literally where you live. You actually have an investment in it, and to make sure it doesn't get torn up and stuff like that. So, just rent the dirt from me and take care of your home and mind your own business. So in fact, that's the thing. We've got 3 rules, and 3 rules only. Pay your rent, respect other people and their property, and keep it clean and green. That's it. We don't give them a stack of rules that thick over every aspect of what has to go on. Just follow those 3 rules and you're good.
That's it. Keep it simple, silly, right? Keep it simple, Steve.
Right.
Now,
I'm sure there's plenty of tenants that would take out the Steve and put the stupid in there. So
same here. Well, but that's okay. You can kiss them goodbye as you're cashing checks every month. But one of the things I like to ask people is, you've done a variety of things. Is there kind of a sweet spot that you see as far as size of lots or size of pads, number of pads in a home park? I know it'll vary, probably location, and how old, what's going on there. But what are you guys looking for pretty much for your portfolio? If you had a bread and butter or a steak and potato kind of thing, or should we say a Ruth Chris kind of steak for you, because you guys are there a lot?
It really depends on how much money you have. If you're Berkshire Hathaway, you can afford the retirement parks, the nice, beautiful paved streets, all the home, and you can get real tight on the regulations and stuff like that, because you're dealing with retired people. And if you have the money to pay up front, so you got no note on it, then those are very, very profitable. However, if you are just an average investor, maybe you've got $500,000 or maybe up to $1.5 million, or maybe even just a little bit more, you've got to look at the mom and pop parks, and which is basically, a lot of them say 100 spaces or less, but I like to keep it maybe around, 50 to 75 spaces is the sweet spot, because you can, anything less than that, it's going to be difficult to be profitable, especially if you're carrying a note, or unless you've got some sweetheart deal like I made, then, the whole park could be empty. You'd still be making money. But but that's not the reality most of the time. So yeah, I like to stay between 50 and 75 spaces.
Now,
And I deal with poor people. I mean, that's that's not to say anything about poor people. It's just that if you keep rents low and you give them a community feeling, the thing is, and a lot of banks, when it comes to microloans and stuff, they shy away from it. But the bottom line is, poor people pay their bills.
Yeah.
They don't have a team of lawyers and the sophistication to try to get a backdoor loophole on every transaction that you do. It's very simple for them. They're living paycheck to paycheck. They want to stay ahead on rent, and they'll pay it if it's low enough. And to prove the point, this obviously isn't the first recession that we've been through.
Right.
And with COVID and everything else like that, we deal with a large Hispanic market here in Arizona. And you know what? Right now, we're $23.18 non-collected for the entire year of 2020. So
wow.
That's, people pay their bills, and it's been a lifesaver. While a lot of businesses have had to shut down, a lot of financial problems everywhere, they don't have anything else. They know that if they lose this home, they're done. So they hold on to it, pay their bills.
Right. Now, have you dealt with any, for those that might be asking out there, man, this sounds really great. How big you talked about 50 to 75. How big an area is it? How many acres is that? And how kind of close to the city? Are you looking for stuff on the outskirts of cities or rural? What's kind of some of the geographic numbers behind that?
Yeah, it really depends on what, quite frankly, who you're dealing with. If you're dealing with older retired people, you got to be in the city, and you got to have amenities. You got to be real close to golf courses, things like that. If your park doesn't have, those type of things. But yeah, so, but I don't necessarily deal with the retirement community,
Right.
because again, the type of money that it takes to be, a big wig in that is insane. And recently here in Arizona, a Washington hedge fund has come, and they on average paid $187,000 per space for this, and it drove that particular market through the roof. It's insane right now. You can't touch anything for under 70 or 80 million dollars now because of that.
Wow.
However, if you stick with the sweet spot, the little mom and pops and things like that, you can, $15,000 a pad is not unreasonable. If you can get it below 15,000, hey, that's fantastic. But a lot of the mom and pop parks, you do have to take in consideration. This is the most important thing, because it'll put you in the poorhouse real quick. What do the utilities look like?
Right.
And we have an easement that's about, it's about 150 yards long. We're literally trapped in between railroad tracks down there. We've got the light rail in front of us and the railroad behind us, and then we got this very long easement, our driveway that we get into. And so 50 spaces is taken up right about 5 acres. Okay. So you need about 10 spaces an acre, which is great, because a lot of the retirement parks and stuff, everybody's stacked on top of each other.
Right.
If you get on a roof, you cannot fall off a roof. You'll just hit your neighbor's.
You could leapfrog across the park checking out roof.
So the thing is that if you go roughly 10 spaces an acre, everybody's got a yard, and so it's kind of a self-contained thing, and that way you got space to park. You got a little patch of grass they can take care of, and if you do that, then you don't have to have necessarily green belts and park spaces and stuff in the park. And so whenever you take all that into consideration, it's very profitable to have about 10 spaces per acre. A little more, a little less. It's up to you.
And then with the utilities, you're running power, gas, and septic, or is it or sewage?
Well, it's that's another great question. Is because a lot of the mom and pop parks are older, and so they used to have septic tanks. They still may be on septic. The other thing too is you do have to consider the utilities and if you're a master metered community or not. There's a lot of advantages to being a master meter community. The biggest disadvantage is that you have to literally, you're control of the dirt. You are the utility company. And so if there's pipe repairs or anything else like that that need to be done, electrical, all that, you're in charge of it. It's your baby. The meter readers come and the city and everybody else just comes and either shuts everything off at the master meter or turns it on, and then you sub meter out. Well, the thing about sub metering is that you are allowed to make a little bit of profit because again, you're your own utility company, so you can jack that up. The issue is if people don't pay, you're still stuck with the master meter bill, but then you've got to find out a way to recoup all of that. So there's pros and cons to that. But that's a very big thing, is being a master meter community or not. And if you're not, then the problem with a lot of the bigger utility companies, such as like with SRP here in Arizona, it's a government agency. And so you can imagine how well that goes when it comes to doing something as simple as changing a meter out or changing a pedestal. Something that common sense and a good electrician would take 2 hours to do turns into a 4-month project with backup generators and everything else like that, because it's a government job. Everybody has to be sure they don't step on the other person's, on their job and stuff like that. So it takes, 20 or 30 guys to do a 1-man 2-hour job. The other thing with that is we're switching over from septic tanks to city sewer. And the issue with that is that the county is the only one that allows septic tanks. The city does not allow septic tanks. Well, the county used to own this particular park, the land and stuff like that. So everything was copacetic. However, the great city of Mesa didn't even start keeping records until 1994.
Oh, wow.
And so you got to go before it's on microfiche before then. And so, you have to go back to those records to find anything when it comes to the park. And so that they can all have plausible deniability, they fast track, like they skip several steps. Like you've got the county saying, yes, we passed it off on this, that. And then there's several steps that are skipped, and then the city picks it up. And of course, they want you to prove that you have the ability to actually hook up to the city, first of all. And then you've got to go into the proper way of getting rid of your septic tanks and getting a county and a city to talk to each other and agree on anything. Very difficult. So, if you want to do something and you want to do it right, but yet you're hiring contractors and stuff like that to do it, when the city and the county are both involved, and you're going from like a septic to a sewer system, it's going to be very, very, very expensive. And so if you just pay a manager enough who has construction experience, who has, and he can go get certified and has to pass these master meter classes every year. But if he can take care of the gas, the sewer, the water, things like that, and even if you doubled what you'd normally pay a manager, it's well worth it, because he gets to do all that stuff for you. And that's a huge, huge money saver right there. So, and these are things you have to take into consideration, because if you want to just, have the city and the local utility companies be in charge of the meters, be in charge of everything, and all you want to do is collect a check at the end of the month, it's going to be a small check, but you don't have the headaches.
Mm-hmm. Makes a lot of sense there. Now, the question for you: is there any type of? You have three rules: pay your rent, respect others, and take care of your property. You know, what kind? Any other type of evaluations or qualifications you evaluate from your tenants or the people coming that are renting and stuff like that? How much does it cost to move a mobile home in and out in time frame like that? Could you answer those questions?
Yeah, well, move-in costs and eviction costs and stuff. Well, I'll go over both of those. Uh, we have an older park, and we have some of the mobile homes and stuff have been there since the late 50s, early 60s. Okay. Now, the issue with this, and this is something, again, you have to take into consideration when it comes to utilities, because if the city and stuff is in charge of it, then they have to come and they have to upgrade everything on their dime. Okay. Think about what was happening in the 1950s. You had one bedroom, one bath mobile homes. They had a radio, and if they were doing pretty well, they had a TV, and they had a stove top, and they had a water heater. And two people would live in there, maybe one, maybe the grandkids would come over and visit, whatever the deal was. Electricity demands was not that high back then.
Right.
Now we've got 9 people living in a mobile home that's been divided to where they put the mattress on the ground and build the walls on the side of the mattresses. The carport, they keep parking on the street, and then the carport all of a sudden gets enclosed, so then they try parking on the grass. And they've got 2 full electric ranges in there, because cooking all the food and everything else like that. They've got a computer and an iPhone and an iPad in every room, and they've got 17 window units, air conditioning window units, hanging out up everywhere. And they wonder how come their little 30 amp or their 50 amp pedestal that is original, why it's going off all the time. So you have to be very careful when it comes to that, to assess the needs of what's going on and what's going to be happening in the future. Now, the thing that's great, and one of the reasons why we just give the mobile homes away to the people who've stayed there the longest and made it their responsibility, is because you can't pull a permit for a mobile home to move it out of the park. And again, there's always these little loopholes and stuff like that. We won't necessarily get into all the loopholes and everything, but the bottom line is you cannot, on a massive scale, run down to the city, pull a permit to move a mobile home in or out on that old. There's a bunch of regulations, a bunch of HUD issues and stuff. You have to have regress windows, the whole 9 yards. And especially if it's not your house, and the people who own mobile homes, many times, especially with the group that we're dealing with, they don't have the money to rehab it. Right. And, and so that, again, there's obviously ways to go around it, but, well, that's a different show. How to punk the government will be a different podcast. So we'll
the Punk the Government podcast. I like the name.
That's right. But yeah, so you've got to take all this stuff into considerations about the viability of actually moving anything new in and moving any of the old out. Because even if it comes to destroying a mobile home, there's NESHAP rules and stuff like that when it has to do with asbestos removal, stuff like that. So the days of just bringing in a backhoe or a bobcat or anything with a grapple on it and just tearing it up and putting it in the dumpster, those days are long gone. You've got to, and again, with all the permitting process and everything else like that, an easy one-day job cleanup will take months, if it's not done on a massive scale. So
something again, yeah, I would say it's cheaper for a gallon of gasoline.
Well, in some cases. That has been a rent collection method, believe it or not. So the gas can was filled with water, but the message was the same. So
now on your pad leases, is it month to month, year leases, like a lease, or is it vary, or how's that work?
Yeah, we love month to month. The reason being is because you can raise rents anytime. I mean, you have to give them the 90-day notice, but they've got 1-year leases and they've got the 4-year leases. And especially, if you're dealing, and sometimes the long-term leases are great if maybe you have an adult park or something like that. And so, the money's pretty secure and then that's fine. But when it comes to people who are living paycheck to paycheck, month to month is great because you don't have to go through the court costs and everything of evicting somebody. And, because the lease is up, and it's especially good with short-term RVs and stuff as well, because it basically, this is oversimplifying it, but basically they can leave without giving you notice, and you can kick them out without giving them much notice. Just say, all right, I'm going to need this space. See you later. And so to keep yourself very agile when it comes to that, when it comes to mobile homes, I would say month to month's the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
It's least amount of court costs, and if somebody really wants out and needs out, then you're able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Keeping attorneys out of the process is the cheapest thing. That is the biggest money saving, most profitable thing that you can do. Which I've actually paid people to leave and came out money ahead.
Yeah, so. I would say so. When you start figuring in what you'd save on attorney fees and hourly costs and stuff like that, the whole cash for keys works well for you. Now, are you seeing an influx with your parks and then maybe other ones that you're tracking? Seeing an influx with everything going on over the last 12 months, whereas housing's gotten more expensive, traditional housing, more and more people, dual households moving in. You mentioned the Hispanic community, and they do a great job of the first thing they often pay are paying their mortgage and paying their truck payment and then squirreling away cash and bringing in 2 or 3 families to make it affordable for everybody. Are you seeing an increase in occupancy rates long-term for the last couple of years?
This is the thing is that I guess I can't be called racist if I'm talking about white people. So you got to watch everything out. So, okay.
You're just not unwoke. You're unwoke.
I know. That's the problem. I am a bit of a redneck, okay, and I tend to tell it the way it is. I've had to church up a lot of my language and sophistication to be on your show. I mean, I'm a little scared. I mean, the camera is making my neck look a little red right now. I don't know if it's that or the shirt.
I think it's the shirt. It's the red line from the Red Sox line.
Well, there you go. And my my high school education is probably going to come through here pretty quick, but the bottom line is that when I first took over that park, okay, as a manager, we had 17 people that were paying. It was Tweakerville, a lot of white trash. All right, to use the politically correct term.
Exactly.
It was everything that a lot of people conjure up in their minds when they think of trailer parks stuck in between railroad tracks.
Yeah,
cars up on blocks, pit bulls in every yard. I mean, just And so I went on a massive eviction spree, got rid of a lot of them, and we catered to. I don't know. Maybe I'll get in trouble saying catered. But we catered to the Hispanic community. There was a need there, and my feelings and thoughts on it, regardless of how a person feels about immigration and things like that, Arizona has a problem with it. They're coming, whether or not legally, illegally, whatever the situation may be. It is a market. And if you take a market and you bury it and you make it go underground and you turn a black market into it, then there's trouble for everywhere.
Yep.
However, if you acknowledge that, hey, look, you know what? And this is something that, in case I forget, I'm going to circle back. Just remember Pervert Park, okay? Because this is awesome. Okay. All right. So dealing with a lot of we brought in a lot of the Hispanics, okay, and again, we made a lot of deals with them when it came to just take the house as is. You release the park from any and all liabilities. This is it, and all we want, you're renting the dirt from us, all we want is your monthly rent. And they agreed to that. And so I filled the park up very quickly. And the thing is that with the Hispanic community, whenever they move on, okay, or let's say worst case scenario, maybe they've got some legal issues and are getting deported, whatever. They always have family coming in and moving in. It's been a steady train. We have not had an occupancy problem since I filled it up almost 20 years ago.
Wow.
And so, to answer your question, I don't, as far as that park is concerned, I don't know. There hasn't been an influx in anything because it's always been running the way that it is.
Nice.
Now, obviously, if you take the economics of, because trailer parks have a little bit of a stigma in it, especially mom and pop trailer parks. It's not the retirement community. They just think that, poor white trash, living there, marrying their cousin or sister or whatever the deal is. And, that whole, all the stigma to it. And the thing is that if people are having a difficult time paying, now, they probably, quite frankly, were having a difficult time paying before. And so the dynamic of people is very important. And one of the things that I kind of pride myself on is I do an interview with every person before they come in. And I dance around the questions. I make sure I've got my list of questions you're not allowed to ask. Okay. I steer far away from them. But I do get, I ask about their job. I ask about their interests, because if they're in a job that they absolutely hate, what's the chance of them being in it for very long?
Right.
And these aren't careers; these are jobs.
Yep.
So you're not planning on a career people paying the rent. You're planning on people who have jobs. So you ask about their adaptability, to change. To how long do you think, if you lose this job for whatever reason, how long would it take you to get another one? If the rent is low and you look outside and they're driving a brand new, if they're driving an $80,000 vehicle and it's brand new and stuff like that, you probably want to question their ability to continue to pay rent on, their minimum wage job.
Right.
You take a look at the clothes they're wearing and everything else like that. A lot of people like to dress up, perverts and felons can put on a shirt and tie and look like $1 million. And so when anybody comes to the office in a shirt and tie, knowing the type of park that it is, I get that. That's the first red flag right there. Now if they come, in a food service industry outfit, or if they come in a construction workers' clothes and stuff like that, hey, let's talk. And then again, and this is something that we can talk about pervert park later on or whatnot, but when it comes to records and everything, there's only one thing that will keep you out of our park, and that is no sex offenders. We can discriminate against sex offenders, and we do, quite frankly. But just because you may have some sort of criminal record and everything, that does not automatically exclude you from the park. And so again, that initial interview, I get the feel for them, and I tell you what, getting that feel for them is better than any background check that they put in, because again, that's just numbers. That's just a profile. That's just stating the facts. That has nothing to do with personality, has nothing to do with whether they have a family, if they brought the kids with them. Again, what type of vehicle they're driving, how desperate are they, or are they really trying to start all over again? So these are all, and like I said, I can go for days on, I know you're not supposed to profile people, but I do it very well. And I can go on for days. And because that's the whole thing about, just real quick, and I won't go off on a tangent on this, history. What is history but the study of human nature?
Right.
It's very easy to predict the future. All you have to do is understand human nature in the past, understand what human nature is today. You put those two together, boom, you've got what the future holds. And that is a formula that is absolutely critical in running a profitable park, because, human nature is either going to make you or it's going to break you financially. People tend to be unpredictable to most other people. All they do is they just simply do the numbers. Well, the numbers don't add in the human element. So it's very important to understand human nature. and to get personal. And that's another thing too, just real quick. And I know this isn't for everybody. Not everybody's going to live, the owners aren't going to live in a mobile home park. All right. But one of the things that just, so you understand how I'm bringing all this together as far as my tenants and do they have any respect for me or anything like that? Seeing that I am, well, until recently, in the past 16 months, I moved to Scottsdale. So, I'm one of them now, but I do make an appearance at the park a couple of times a week to, keep up the appearances and let them know that, hey, the Hefe hasn't left. But I got to tell you, it makes a tremendous difference when the person that they are answering to is literally living with them.
Right.
Some people may be like, well, Steve, is the money real and all this other stuff? Because, I mean, come on, who in their right mind would want to live in a mobile home park? I mean, especially stuck between the tracks. But I got to tell you, my park, when I first took over it, had 417 calls for service that year, the year that I took over. Once I took over and cleaned it up, we've had 3 calls of service in 17 years.
Wow.
So that's, we've gotten awards for turning the community around. We became Mesa's official 178th official neighborhood in just our little park. We cleaned it up. I can leave $10,000 in cash sitting on the dashboard, keys in the ignition, windows rolled down, leave it overnight, and it will still be there in the morning. I know this because I've accidentally done that before. Living in some mobile home that I pay $63 a year in property tax on, okay, but having a couple of $1 million worth of documents hanging on the walls, okay, hello, who's going to believe a Declaration of Independence or anything else like that is in a trailer park in Mesa, Arizona, stuck between railroad tracks? It's the greatest anti-theft thing there is. Because even if you told people this is real, this is legit, they're going to be like, whatever, dude, what are you doing in a, now, live in Scottsdale, we are alarmed to the hilt, the whole 9 yards, because yeah, it makes sense being in Scottsdale that all this stuff exists. But that's just the type of respect. And the thing is, especially with the Hispanic community, you allow them to have a place to where they can just be left alone, and that they can bring their family. They can have their little parties and stuff, they can drink their beer in peace and then get up in the morning at 4 o'clock in the morning and I'll take off and go to their jobs and stuff like that. You do that and that is a gold mine. All they want to do is be left alone. And that is something that you have to take into consideration, because you do not get that, quite frankly, with any other group of people.
That is true.
Because they're not entitled.
No, exactly.
They're here with a dream. They're here with a vision. They want to make and the thing is, it's a self-policing community. And that's something else you want to take into consideration. And they do not complain. They are so grateful. And again, I don't run a slum. Okay. As I said, I lived in that park for almost 20 years. Okay. So it's not like it's a slum, but again, I don't overcorrect it either. We don't have, perfectly, no cracks in the sidewalks, perfectly paved streets, 5 stars parks, movies in the park night. No, we don't have that. That's not who our clientele are. That's not the amenities they need and want. And so, you've got to rearrange your rules and regulations according to the clientele that you have. And don't go into a park, and don't go into, a 1-star park or a half-a-star park and try to expect, that you're going to get 5 stars. You're going to turn it into a 5-star park. It's never going to happen. No. Know your audience, know who your clientele is, and know where the park's located.
I love it. Let's tell us about Pervert Park now that we're making the circle here. Tell me about PP.
Segue about Pervert Park. Okay, now before this happens, I've got to, again, you need to talk to a real estate person. You need to talk to an attorney about congregation laws and everything else like that. But there is nothing, especially in my park being in, the main one that I keep talking about, being in a shady part of town, so to speak. There's nothing more exhilarating than walking outside and you get the notice on your door that some sex offender has, because we have apartments and stuff right next to us. Some sex offender moved into the apartment. And now the whole neighborhood gets blanketed. And especially, the thing is that you can come into my park at 2:00 in the morning. A late, like Catherine, windows rolled down. And this is before people knew who she was. Okay. Windows rolled down. A lady by herself, 2:00 in the morning, she will not be touched. She will not be harassed, nothing. Because again, it is a self-policing community, very family oriented, just want to be left alone. They just want to do the American dream. Just leave me alone. Let me raise my family in peace. We'll call it good. I'll help with the economy. I'll buy local, and life is good. So in St. Augustine, Florida, and you can surf the internet. See, that's part of it. You get on the internet, you look up pervert park, you'll get what the movie is and stuff like that, because they made a little movie about it, and you're already doing your research. So there you go. The idea was that instead of blanketing the neighborhood with all these sex offender notices, what happens if there was a mobile home park, properly distanced from all the regulations, it can't be around schools, it can't be, all that, okay, to where only sex offenders were allowed to rent. And the whole idea being is, first of all, it's a huge help to your community, because nothing is more irritating, especially for people who can't really afford to move every week. All right. They find a place that they're going to put some roots in, and they're like, okay, I'm going to raise my kids here and stuff like that. And then they get the sex offender notice, and they're powerless to do anything about it. But yet now they don't want to let their kids go to the playground. They don't want to do any of that stuff because, you got perverts in the neighborhood. So, and then also, how many times, these parole officers, and probation officers and stuff, how much better, and to save taxpayers, time and money and everything else like that, if you have them all in one area, and the thing is that perverts don't have to turn to crime. I know, I should say alleged perverts, or those who have, okay.
Well, if they are a sex offender, they are a pervert. That's
okay, there you go.
Yeah.
But
there's no question about that.
Yeah, I do understand though that some people get the notices because they urinated in public. All right, I do understand. That's not the that's the exception rather than the rule. Okay, but I'm just saying they have a hard time holding down jobs. They have a hard time, making rent and stuff, because it's going to be an issue. And so, anyways, what they did, they made this mobile home park. Only sex offenders can be in it. It allows the parole officers and that stuff to be in there. It's obviously it's gated, it's guarded. There's signs, the proper signs are everywhere that no minors allowed in the park ever, period. But this gives them a place of responsibility. They can go get jobs now because they have an address. All right. They can be held responsible. The little community meetings, if you will, the support groups or whatnot, can be held there. Yep. And what else are they going to do? You've got your residents there. Everybody attends. All right. They don't have to worry about being harassed, because everybody already knows where they are and stuff like that. And nobody really wants to go, stir that pot, just leave them alone. Hey, if they're out of my neighborhood, fantastic. Keep it up. And, on top of that, there's tax benefits to it that the government's, because you're helping, you kind of becoming a halfway house. And yep. So there's a lot of benefits from it. Plus, it is I shouldn't say guaranteed, but if you do the numbers in the prison system and stuff like that, and how many sex offenders are being released, man, is it a good thing to, I don't know if you'll ever run out of clients. Now, the thing too, though, is that in this type of situation, it would be good to own the homes. I wouldn't make them immaculate brand new homes. I would make them, older homes and stuff like that. But because these people do not have the resources to start off life with a home after they've been doing, years in prison. So that would be a good thing. Anyways, so Pervert Park, that's literally the name of the movie. the documentary. Look it up online, St. Augustine, Florida. And but that is something that I still might branch out into, because like I said, we've cornered the Hispanic market. We're doing well with that. And so yeah, we're looking at some farm fields just outside of town that that allow us to do that. So
interesting, very interesting. Well, we'll add the link to the we'll find it, put in the description below for everybody that's watching this, and go from there. But Steve, what's the best way for people to connect with you, to reach out to pick your brain if they're looking at investing in mobile home parks, or they may have a mom and pop lead for you as well?
Yeah. The best thing, and for anybody who is looking for advice or whatnot, look, I've made a couple of bucks. All right, Steve's doing okay. He doesn't need to be freelancing or anything else like that. So if anybody has legitimate questions and really wants to get to know, all they got to do, they can email me at thepatriot1776 at reagan.com. Again, THEPATRIOT 1776 at REAGAN.com. Or again, if you text me, you'll get a hold of me. I will respond more than I do phone calls. I don't, if I need to call somebody, fantastic. But if I'd be on the phone all damn day and I wouldn't get to do anything. And so again, my direct line to text me. And again, you text me, I will pick up. 480-600-6685. Again, 480-600-6685. And that's the best way to get a hold of me. And I will talk shop. I will make sure all your questions are answered. If I don't know the answer, hasn't happened yet, but I'm just, I'm saying if I don't know the answer, I will direct you to the resources who do. And again, my expertise are in low income housing, if you will, and how to survive, government chaos and everything else like that. I haven't ventured into the adult retirement communities. I've had a ton of experience with it as a contractor, and doing the claims and stuff they have in there, but I haven't ventured into that. So maybe call up Warren Buffett. His number is I'm not going to tell you his number. But
to show up in Omaha at the McDonald's and he gets his 2 egg McMuffins every morning.
That's right. And I actually, yeah. So yeah.
Good
so
stuff.
Fancy parks aren't my thing. So you'll probably be better off talking to someone else about that. But mom and pop, or a relatively, maybe you don't have all the money in the world to invest, give me a call. I will tell you how to squeeze every penny out. So wow, have we really been talking for an hour?
Yeah, we have. Time flies when you're having fun, man.
Did I answer any of your questions? I guess that's the big
thing. You did. You totally did, man. Perfect for it. But that's the thing. I think we have such a big need for affordability, and I think a lot of people get excited about apartments and single family homes. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that, or commercial properties. That's great. But I think the number one thing that we're seeing, and you and I could go on another tangent about this, is that entry level, that helping people kind of get out of a bad thing, that minimum wage employee who needs a place to call home. They have a place to plant their flag and kind of start their nest egg, or start over, even if they're coming out, just getting back on the right track for things. And if you own the land and you're affordable, you can really do a lot of good for the community and attract the right type of people by just helping people self-police and just being, hey, follow the golden rule, treat others as you want to be treated. Kind of go from there.
Exactly. And especially with this economy and what COVID has done, especially in the housing market, it has priced so, hey, if you own a home, fantastic. If you own several homes, even better. Now's the time to sell and to get into some more things. However, people who are starting out, they have been priced out of the market.
Yep.
They have been long forgotten about. And so going into manufactured housing communities, it may be the only way that they've got, other than apartments. Now, granted, the apartment complex is being built everywhere right now, outpacing new home construction by far. And again, just the whole and this could be a whole nother subject, I know, but quite frankly, millennials and Gen Zs, they don't want cars, they don't want homes. I guess they're going to have no problem sticking 5, 6, 7 of their friends in a 1-bedroom apartment. But everybody's doing the tiny house thing now too, and hey, we're the original tiny house people.
Right. That's
So,
right.
So we can fit all aspects of that. It is a generational shift. But right now, like I said, in Arizona, the market is hot for the Hispanic community and mobile home parks. I'm sure it's probably that way in Texas too, any type of border state. It's a huge thing. The further north you get or the further east, I can talk and I can theorize, but I only know the facts of what I know about the border states right now in mobile home parks. So
makes sense. Yeah. Steve, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your experience, sharing your knowledge, and sharing your, as I like to say, colorful insight into your experience and years experience, because that's the thing. You have a lot of people that are brand new, but when you've been in the industry for 20 plus years like you have, I mean, it's just a wealth of knowledge. And thanks for coming on and sharing today.
You bet. And just one last little thought real quick. And this isn't to brag or anything else like that. This is just to try to get the people in the mindset of a mobile home park. Again, not once did I ever dream as a kid, I want to be a mobile home park owner. That'll be fantastic. Everybody's going to be jealous. Look, the easiest thing I've ever done in my life is make $1 million. The hardest thing I've ever done is believe that I could do it. I naively and vigorously protested the entire way. Well, on my way to the biggest blessing of my life, I changed my mindset. I went from manager mentality to owner mentality, and it literally made me a millionaire overnight. So these are the things that you need to understand and think about when going into a mobile home park investment. You've got to know the people. You've got to know, who you're dealing with, and you need to not be afraid to get your hands dirty if you want to make some mad profits. If you want to outsource everything to everybody and just collect a small check at the end of every month, well, that's your choice. That's not the way I did it. And believe me, I wouldn't have changed a thing, except for when I got offered the park for $1, I would have taken it. But so other than that, mobile home parks are amazing. I love it. I don't care about the stigma. In fact, nothing gives me greater pleasure than walking in a room full of professionals, of lawyers, of doctors, surgeons, bankers, things like that, and knowing that there is nothing that I can do that I can't take care of. And chances are I probably got more cash in my wallet than any of these guys, because I am liquid. So mobile home parks did all of that. And so if you want to join it too, give me a call. You've got my number. Let's talk. There's lots of great opportunities to help people. And that's the thing. You help enough people get what they want, as Zig Ziglar says, then you can have anything you want.
Awesome. Good stuff there. Well, guys, take Steve's counsel and his experience, take him up on it. If it's something you're interested in. Definitely a lot of opportunities out there. Go out, take some action, everybody, and we'll see you all at the top. Bye.
All right, thanks. Have a good one.